And Julia, of course, this impacts people right now who are looking at this decision, and you've done reporting within the immigrant communities. What does this mean for someone born in the U.S., to undocumented parents, and for the pregnant immigrant women who are part of this lawsuit?
Well, like so many guests have said, the court here, the justices, did not weigh in on the merits, but they're merely kicking the can down the road. They are staying those injunctions, of course, only and the fact that they were nationwide. They're not weighing in on the constitutionality. But in the majority opinion, Justice Barrett did say, look, this isn't to go into effect until 30 days after this opinion. So it does leave open the window that in 30 days, unless there is major movement and district courts, not only the district courts that brought where these cases were brought, but also in other courts around the country, that it very well could be that an undocumented immigrant, or even someone who is in the country legally but temporarily, if they don't have a green card, which happens very often, you may have a temporary status, you might be seeking asylum, that if you have a child here, they would not be a U.S. citizen. And the question also becomes then, what is the citizenship of the country where this person's from? Did they grant it based on the nationality of the parent? Or could you have a situation where there are simply children born in this country who don't have a real citizenship, where that is in question? This, of course, is something that's been enshrined in the 14th Amendment, and it's not something that the Trump administration argued should have been overturned. They merely argued that the courts were going too far here. And of course, this could definitely work in other issues having to do with immigration. I'm thinking about whether or not there could be asylum policies that are put on hold in certain states, but say Texas allows the Trump administration to move forward, but California doesn't. It could mean immigrants go to certain states based on the laws in those areas. It could overwhelm some states and their social systems while keeping immigrants out of other states. It really could parse up the country. I'm having deja vu here for a moment, Anna, because I covered the Dobbs decision, which obviously parsed the country on the issue of abortion. And so time and time again, we're seeing times where it depends where you are in this country. And on the issue of immigration, if there are immigrants who go to certain states for certain benefits, that really could have an undue burden on certain social systems in certain states. And on a number of immigration issues, the Alien Enemies Act, we know that the one place where the Trump administration could not deport people without due process was the Northern District of Texas. And so they moved men to that facility in the Northern District of Texas to try to get them out immediately. The Supreme Court did stay that, but it could come back again. It's still on the emergency docket. So all of that to say, this will have big impacts not only on this issue, but on a number of issues. There's one more thing I wanted to read for you, Anna, and that is where Justice Barrett calls out Justice Jackson, who wrote the dissent, and said, we observe only this, that Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. So what this falls down to, at least inside the court, maybe not what Americans are thinking when they're looking at the practical implications of this decision, but there's a real debate going on in this country and in this court over whether or not courts have more power than the president. And if you think about it, that's the exact argument that the Trump administration and the exact fight that they've been wanting to have since the beginning, since they went to the court just down the street from here, the district court in D.C., and argued to Judge Boasberg they should be able to deport people to El Salvador without due process. They should be able to deport people to Guantanamo Bay. It's this idea that judges cannot stand in their way because the executive is more powerful than the judiciary. And right here, we do have the judiciary handing more power to the executive today, Anna.